Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Welcome to Accelerated Health with Sara Banta. I'm a busy wife, mom of 3, and an NA&P certified supplement professional, but that's not all. I'm also the founder of the most innovative health supplements company, 4 years in a row, just awarded for the 4th time, Accelerated Health Products, a brand offering innovative, natural, scalar-enhanced supplements to optimize your health. And this podcast is not just a source of information. We're a community. We're all here to learn and grow on our journeys, regardless of where you are today. And this podcast is the springboard to learning. The free group coaching on Telegram is where we continue learning together. I post tips and tools to deepen your health and keep you motivated and moving forward. So here's what you can expect. New episodes every Monday and Wednesday with in-depth health discussions and expert guests. Hot topics that are in the news every Friday to keep things fun. And then, of course, followed up with the free group coaching. And the details can be found on my website at sarabantahealth.com. Have you thought about detoxing, but you're a little worried if it's too much, or you're worried about the detox flu symptoms? Well, I've created over 10 unique, easy detox cleanse programs to help you reset your body while feeling great. You can just start with the colon cleanse to get you pooping. You can do the parasite cleanse, candida cleanse, the liver flush cleanse, and the big one, the accelerated diet cleanse to reset everything: your liver, your hormones, your brain, your gut, and your weight loss. You can take the detox quiz at sarabantahealth.com to find out which one's right for you. And maybe you're not ready for the detox, but you just want to start with 1 or 2 or 3 supplements. Just fill out the protocol form on my website, and I will personally put together a protocol for you. I promise, just taking a few steps forward with your health will change your life. And the difference is I'm here every step of the way. We've got one of my favorite human beings back, Amie Hornaman, the Thyroid Fixxr. We love getting together. You guys love hearing us together and talking all things thyroid and weight loss, which I feel like is affecting every single human today, Amie. And we could go on for hours, right?
Oh, I know. We just love hanging out. We love talking shop and hanging out. And really, I mean, it's about helping people. It's about giving the information that people need to hear and helping them to make that next step in their health and in their health progress.
Yeah. And, you know, people have heard you before and we've gone through your story, but I felt like just giving a cliff notes on where you were when you started is just mind-blowing and is a great place to start on this topic.
Well, yeah, I think that's a good point, because a lot of people look at us, they look at other health professionals, and we're speaking from a place of being optimized. So you could look at, let's say, me and say, there's no way she knows what it's like to be overweight and to deal with weight gain, but I do. Because that's exactly what happened to me when I was going through my thyroid crisis and when I was getting medically gaslit. I was being told I was normal. Everything was fine. I was being told to eat less and exercise more. I was misdiagnosed by 6 different doctors in a major medical system. I mean, we're talking the Cleveland Clinic, Mayo Clinic. This was UPMC Pittsburgh, a major, major medical system where supposedly the best of the best go to practice. So I saw 6 different doctors, metabolic specialists, endocrinologists, PCPs, OBGYNs, nurse practitioners, and none of them diagnosed me properly. It was hypothyroidism. I mean, you would think, well, this is a no-brainer to diagnose, right? It's the master gland. It controls everything. If you go into your doctor and you say, oh my God, I put on 25 plus extra pounds, and that was me, on my 5'2" frame, I was carrying at least 25 extra pounds than what you see right now. But I believe I actually hit 40 total pounds of weight gain in a very short amount of time with no explanation. When you go into your doctor and you say, this is what's happening to you, the very first thing they should check is your thyroid, because the thyroid controls your metabolism. So any kind of weight gain, weight loss resistance, inability to lose weight, weight loss that just isn't responding to what it should be responding to, such as caloric restriction, exercise, doing all the biohacking things, you have to start with the thyroid. And, I've been there, done that. I've been through the frustration. And that's ultimately what led me to this place of helping other people figure out whether or not they have a thyroid problem and figure out what to do about it.
And it's not just about weight loss. That is going to be our focus today, but it's about your immune system, your brain feeling good, your hormones, your menstrual cycle, your menopausal symptoms, your fertility, your liver health, stress, sleep,
Everything.
all of these things. And it's I mean, when you were gaining that weight, you were on a very restrictive regimen diet. You were not eating the Ben and Jerry's at night and all of the things and drinking a bottle of wine. So the other thing I wanted to bring up, and I believe I mentioned this to you, is that when you saw my blood labs that were all over the place because of my liver, you said, Sara, you're hypothyroid. I had another doctor look at those same blood tests and say, Sara, you're hyperthyroid. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, how can I be both? I can't. So there's so much confusion out there. And number one, most doctors don't even test all of the right numbers. And then you have all of these stages in life. So maybe you were normal thyroid, and then now you're post baby and your thyroid goes in the tank, or maybe you're perimenopause and that's what takes your thyroid down. So your current state of health could be different from what it was. You could develop hypothyroidism. So it's something to always look to first when you're talking about depression or anxiety or weight gain or bloat or gut issues, constipation. One of my biggest signs is water retention. Mm-hmm. And what's so interesting is I have a body scan scale, that tells you your muscle, your fat, and your water. And I've always, had this water issue. And I had 4 other people do their scans just this last weekend on it. And I'm like, by the way, what's your water? And their water is 10% less than mine. And so I'm thinking, okay, so is this my normal thyroid water constitution, or is this a symptom of maybe I've dipped back into hypo? And so it's my point in saying all of this is that there's these other little symptoms that your doctor's not looking at, and they're telling you you're normal, even though you don't feel good in your body, and you've got to pay attention to your symptoms. So let's dive in to hypothyroidism causing that weight gain. Despite eating all the right things, I was just talking to someone this morning. She's like, well, the weight's not coming off. I'm just going to cut my calories by 1/3 again. And part of me is like, no, let's get into the weeds. Let's look at your blood test. Let's do all the other things, because you just cut down the calories. What's your body going to do? It's going to stress. Mm-hmm. It's going to, and we'll get into that, the reverse T3 and how that can play against you. And so you want to work with your body. So where do we start? Weight gain and hypothyroidism.
So just like you mentioned, Sara, we have to start with proper testing. And this is really where I see a lot of people, I don't want to say fail, because it's not their fault. It's where people get confused because they don't have all of the information. So let's just take you for an example. Let's say you never had your reverse T3 tested, and we were just looking, because I see this all the time. My Facebook group, people will post their labs, and I can't tell you the amount of times per week I go, we need that reverse T3. We need that reverse. Can't tell anything with these labs. We need that reverse T3. I mean, they will have the TSH. They will have the free T4. They will have the free T3, which is fantastic. They'll have the antibodies that test for Hashimoto's. They won't have that reverse T3. So let's take you for an example. If we look at someone's TSH, oh, it's low. Let's say it's a 0.7, which in my book, that's fine. As long as it's below a 2, I don't care. But let's say it's actually low. Free T4 is fine. 1.2, let's say. Free T3. Now we get to the free T3. And oh, look, it's actually being flagged high, which I believe yours was flagged high. Mm-hmm. So it's actually being flagged high. Wow. Okay. So a uneducated doctor is going to look at that and say, you have hyperthyroidism. Your TSH is low. Your free T3 is high. Okay. I mean, it could be hyper. But here's the thing. The only time it's hyper, and I know I asked you this as well, how do you feel? Are you anxious? Are you jittery? Are you sweating? Are you losing weight? Do you feel like you're like crawling out of your skin? No. Okay, that checks one box. Okay, this does not appear to be hyper because you know when you're hyper. Now let's go down and look at your reverse T3. When that reverse T3 is elevated from whatever pushed it up, we don't need to know the why, it just is. That reverse T3 is elevated. What it's doing essentially is it's acting like a bouncer outside of the cell door, and it's preventing T3, the active thyroid hormone, from attaching to the receptor site at the cell level, because every single cell in our body has a receptor site on it for T3. So when that reverse T3 is high, it's blocking the T3 from getting to the cell. So in some cases, not all, in some cases, we will actually see a person's free T3 be high, because if you're taking a thyroid glandular, natural desiccated thyroid, liothyronine, if any of that is coming into your body, then that is providing your body with a little bit of T3 or a lot of it of T3, depending on your dose. That T3 then can get blocked. So it appears almost in the blood like there's an excess, like there's too much T3, but there's not. It's because the reverse won't let that T3 get it to the cell. So it's almost like there's an excess in your blood, but that doesn't mean that T3 is doing its job to give you a metabolism, to, like you said, let you poop every day, light your brain up, give you an immune system, regulate your cycles, give you energy, all the things in addition to being able to burn stored body fat and maintain a healthy weight.
So in other words, there's enough free T3 in the blood circulating, but it's not in where it needs to go because the reverse T3 is blocking that receptor site.
So what will happen is someone will have an elevated reverse T3, and that's going to block T3 from getting into the cell. And what we'll see oftentimes is people will think, oh my gosh, my numbers got worse after we work on lowering their reverse T3. They'll look at their free T3 and they'll say, I got worse because my free T3 went from a 4.5 to a 2.9. No, it's not that you got worse. It's that you opened the doors up. Now the T3 can get to where it needs to go. Now we have a really nice, accurate picture, and we can say, okay, your reverse is now in the optimal range. It's no longer blocking the cell. It's no longer wreaking havoc and putting your body in survival mode. Now let's look at your free T3. Oh, okay, you're at a 2.9. Now we know, let's increase your dose a little bit to get that up into that optimal range, that upper quadrant of the range. So just in me saying that, and even if this sounds confusing to the listener, if the listener's like, what in the actual did she just say? That is how nuanced the thyroid is. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is how detailed, precise, personalized, and nuanced the thyroid is. There is no one size fits all when it comes to the thyroid. And I pound this into my audience as well. Because of that nuanced effect, you have to be learning from, listening to, and working with someone that knows what they're doing with the thyroid. Otherwise, like in your case, you could be told that you're hyper. And meanwhile, what if you were 40 pounds overweight like I was? What if you were dragging your butt through the day and somebody tells you that you're hyper because they didn't test you all the way, they didn't test you thoroughly, or they don't know how to interpret those tests and how to look at the picture of that reverse T3 to T3, that's the problem. But it's the thyroid is very, very nuanced.
And at what point do you say to someone, say their free T3 is a little bit lower than what you want, but they feel good?
Yeah.
Is that a symptom of the fact that maybe their receptors are more sensitive? And there are some people that have receptors that are less sensitive, so they're optimal at a different level than maybe someone like me.
Yeah, exactly. So it all comes down to, how do you feel? I mean, that is the number one question before we even look at your labs. I want to know what your symptoms are and how you feel, because that's the lens at which we have to look through to see your labs. Elle Russ and I actually talked about this very thing. We'll randomly have these people who their free T3 will be coming in at, let's say, a 2.9. And for reference, I'm using the standard lab value range of LabCorp in my head when I say this. So the standard lab value range for free T3 goes up to around a 4.2, 4.3-ish. I always say we want you in the upper quadrant of the range. So ultimately we'd want you at, let's say, a 3.6, 3.7, 4.2, something like that. So obviously in the context of that, giving you some numbers, 2.9, you can see, okay, well, that's low. We'll have someone come in with a 2.9 free T3 and they're like, I am doing great. I am a healthy weight. I'm not gaining weight, looking sideways at a brownie. I get through my day. My brain is lit up. My mood is fine. Everything is balanced. I'm pooping every day. It's great. Am I going to treat that? No, that is her optimal. That is that 2.9, where if we put that 2.9 on somebody else, they might be like, I just gained 10 pounds last week. I'm retaining water. I can't get through my day. I need a nap at 2 p.m. I can't remember where I put my keys. Am I getting early stage dementia? That is how personalized it is. It depends on the person. Obviously, how they're caring for themselves outside of the thyroid. Are you inflamed? Are you insulin resistant? Are you doing bioidentical hormones, which just helps to support the whole system? Are you doing iodine, which you and I know and have talked about? Lowers your reverse T3, improves conversion of T4 and T3, improves the thyroid, helps the thyroid gland even produce thyroid hormone. So it depends what you're doing outside of just looking at the thyroid itself and how you feel with that 2.9. But yes, to your point, a person can feel very different based on their body chemistry, makeup, and their lifestyle.
Right. And just to touch on the iodine, there are people where that iodine is going to make the TSH temporarily skyrocket. And people say, oh my gosh, this is making me hypo. And I'll say, well, how are you feeling? And they're saying, I feel great. So I say, well, this is what happens when you give your body that iodine and your thyroid. The brain says, oh my gosh, I love that. I need a whole lot more for all of the cells in my body, not just my thyroid. So it will scream, give me more for about 6 months, and then it'll go down. And I think you say that you don't even really look at TSH as much as the other numbers.
No, I really don't. I mean, yes, if it is screaming at us, my first question, based on what I learned from you, is to ask, are you taking iodine?
Right.
So that's the very first question. And then obviously we look at it in the context of the person. Are they on thyroid medication? Are they, how they feel, what their free T3 and reverse T3 is? So really we kind of just look at TSH with a grain of salt. Like, I'll glance at it. And if it's screaming high, if it's screaming at us, then yeah, we want to dig a little bit deeper and go, well, why? Is this because you're really, really, really hypo, or because you're taking iodine, or did you have a viral load that pushed it up for whatever reason? But it's not an important marker, and it's a brain hormone. It's not a thyroid hormone. It's a pituitary hormone.
And you just mentioned viruses. I mean, I know personally that when I'm sick or I've been exposed to a virus and maybe I'm not even sick, I can feel my whole metabolism go down, because it's not the financial stress or the kids' stress, but it's a physical stressor on my body that says, okay, let's conserve this energy. We need to focus on fighting this virus. We're going to be in survival mode and slow down the metabolism. And it's not what you want, but that's the body's reaction to survive, and that's its goal. It doesn't care what you look like. It doesn't care that your hair is falling out. It cares for survival. So these stressors that can slow down your metabolism aren't necessarily the environmental stressors. They can be internal stressors. They can be your liver backed up. And that was my issue. My liver was working super hard and my body was stressed. So it was going to shut down its metabolism a little bit to be able to deal with that physical internal stressor. But that also brings up the liver. So let's talk about the liver and weight gain and thyroid connection.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, it's such a huge component, and we don't love on it enough. I mean, you and I talk about loving on your liver, but the majority of people don't. They lump it all into let's detox, and they think that they have to do the Beyonce cayenne pepper and lemon juice detox, and that's not it. That's not it. What we want to do is make sure that our liver can process and do the 500 metabolic processes that it's required to do in a day, in addition to protecting us from all of the toxins that we are exposed to on a daily basis. I don't care if you have a whole house water filtration system, the best air filtration system. I don't care if you're buying organic, you're still getting exposed. You're still getting exposed when you walk outside. I mean, we live in the woods, but about 10 miles that way, we have seen planes spraying the fields with glyphosate. You don't think that comes over here? And then I breathe it in when I walk outside to get my fresh air and my sunlight? Absolutely. We are being exposed daily. So unless our livers are functioning properly, they're going to get an accumulation of toxins. Now, the liver is one of the sites that T4, the inactive thyroid hormone, is converted to T3, the active thyroid hormone. And so you can see if that conversion, that T4 to T3 conversion does not happen well, then reverse T3 goes up. So we mentioned reverse T3 in the beginning. I said it doesn't matter what's causing the reverse T3 necessarily when we're looking at that big picture. We just see, okay, reverse T3 is high, free T3 is high as well. Reverse is blocking the T3 from getting into the cell. We need to lower the reverse T3. We need to lower the reverse T3 regardless. And we do this by, number one, checking the liver, checking for insulin resistance, checking nutrient deficiencies. Is the person on T4 only? All of that. But the liver really functions as one of the big time conversion glands for T4 to T3. And it allows our body to work properly. So in addition to helping convert, it also helps keep our toxin load down and helps our metabolism, which in turn is going to decrease inflammation in the body, which in turn is going to help your thyroid gland work better. So it's mind blowing that we don't focus on the liver more.
I know. And we have to remember that with all of these toxins coming in, I'm in Southern California. I am an hour away from where the fires were. Now, safe, my house is safe, our family's safe, thank goodness. But we got the bromide fire retardant chemicals from all of the burn in our air. You don't think that I felt a little stuffy and my liver was working a little extra hard for the next 2 weeks? Absolutely. So many people in my area were sniffly and they didn't know why, because they weren't really sick, but they had these symptoms. And our fat cells are that survival mechanism of where they put those toxins. So our fat cells are not just full of calories from the Ben and Jerry's and the pizza. They're full of the toxins, the bromide, the fluoride, the chlorine, the fire retardant, the GMOs, the glyphosate, the asbestos that was burning in the fires. All of that stuff, our body takes that in, has to store it somewhere to get it out of the blood. And that's going to fill those receptor sites or the fat cells. And then those fat cells are stuffed. So when we try to then bring glucose into the fat cell with insulin, it knocks and says, I'm here, let me put some fuel in there. And it says, nope, we're full. We need to get more fat cells and more fat cells. And that is a stressor on the body, probably increasing that reverse T3 and putting you in that survival mode and increasing cortisol and all the fat storing hormones. So let's talk about cortisol and its specific role in this trifecta of thyroid and weight gain.
Oh, yeah, cortisol. Okay, so cortisol needs T3, the active thyroid hormone, and T3 needs cortisol. What do I mean by that? When someone is truly, let's say, low cortisol, they are flatline, they're bottomed out, they've been under so much stress for so long that their adrenal glands, so our adrenal glands in response to stress will make cortisol. Cortisol is not a bad guy. We can't demonize cortisol. We need it for life. We just need it in the right amounts at the right times of the day.
Right.
So over time, when you are under that chronic ongoing stress, your adrenal glands will pump out cortisol. Probably it'll pump out too much at first. So we'll get a nice high cortisol spike, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Over time, they basically crap the bed. They're like, I'm done. I'm done. You're overworking me here. I'm pumping out cortisol every single day. I got nothing left in the tank. So we see this low cortisol pattern where we test someone 4 times in a day, and we'll actually see a very low flat line. What we need in that case, in addition to obviously supporting the adrenals, helping them to produce more cortisol, we can use pregnenolone, we can use DHEA, we can use progesterone, we give them the tools, the building blocks, we use adrenal glandulars, but we also use T3 because T3 will help to kind of push up that cortisol a little bit and support it through the day. And we can use it thanks to Paul Robinson. He created the circadian T3 method of literally using T3 at strategically timed places in the day to bring people out of that adrenal fatigue. Well, then you say, okay, well then should I not use T3 if I'm spiking high? No, that's not the case, because in that high cortisol state, now you're going to have a lot of problems converting T4 to T3. It's actually more problematic to be on T4 only and be in a high cortisol state, because I guarantee you, I would bet money that your reverse is going to be high. High cortisol, high stress states equals inflammation. High cortisol will push up your insulin and your glucose. And what did we just say is one of the causes of elevated reverse T3? High insulin or insulin resistance. So now you have high cortisol, which pushes up reverse T3, which is causing high insulin or an insulin resistant state, which pushes up reverse T3. How do we bring that down? We use T3. We use T3 to bring down reverse T3. Now, in addition to that, we look at all of those factors. We change your diet if you're eating a boatloads of carbs and sugar and processed food. We add in iodine. We add in magnesium. We add in vitamin D and selenium and all the cofactors that help convert T4 to T3. We support the liver, all of it. But we don't shy away from T3 if cortisol is high. We look at why. Why is it high? Is there a messenger miscommunication? Is something happening along the way? Or are you genuinely in a very, very stressed out state? Then you need to step back and look at your life and think about the different things that you need to change, because you're wigging out, and you're stressed out, and you're anxious, and you're not sleeping, is your progesterone low? All of those things, you need to look at your life and fix that. But we can absolutely use thyroid hormone to help support the adrenals in whatever state they're in.
Now, another hormone that you've talked about, and no one really talks about it, I've talked about it a little bit, is that leptin. And how leptin plays with insulin, which in turn is a factor in weight gain.
You know what? You're right. I don't talk about it enough either. We need to do this more. Okay. So I'll bring you back on the show and we'll discuss leptin. But leptin is the satiety hormone. It sends a signal that we're full. It's actually produced in our fat. So the crazy thing when you really start diving into leptin, and we could do a whole show on it, is it is released from the fat. So the irony is that the more obese you are, the more leptin is produced. Mm-hmm. So you would think, well, obese people, they're satisfied on very little food, but they're not, because of leptin resistance, meaning that leptin that is being produced is actually not getting into the cell to do its job and accumulates in the blood. Very similar, yet not exact to what we were talking about reverse T3 and T3 comparison. But just like you can become insulin resistant, your pancreas produces too much insulin, that insulin can't do its job. So we see this excess of insulin when we test you in blood work. Same thing with leptin. We'll see an excess of leptin. I like leptin numbers to be below a 10. I don't know where you like them ultimately, but that's where my kind of optimal leptin is. And if it's above that, then that is leptin resistance. And those people might be very hungry all the time and be dealing with food noise, which then they go for the comfort foods, which then increases insulin output, which puts them into an insulin resistant state. So we know the very things that help with insulin resistance, like supporting the thyroid, optimizing the thyroid, and using things like berberine, those also help with leptin resistance.
And to make things so much more difficult, because they're not already difficult enough, is from the pandemic, the spike protein has caused insulin dysregulation, depression and anxiety, which will lead you to probably reach for those foods that are going to just take you backwards.
Right.
And a slow metabolism, it backs up your liver. So it's making all of these little things so much more difficult. And then you feel lost and helpless. And when you feel lost and helpless, you don't think your reverse T3 is going to go up even more because you're stressed. Right? That feeling of I'm hopeless and I can't get out of this. It's not like having the flu and saying, I know it's going to be gone in a week. You don't know when it's going to be gone. And you go to your doctor and they say, no, you're normal. I don't feel normal. You feel lost. And then your stress increases even more. It's this vicious cycle. And this is where there are answers. And it's not normal. I mean, I know you, Amie, and I, and every woman out there, maybe some men too, have said to themselves at some point, well, I can't eat what that person can eat just because I have a slow metabolism. That's just me. That's just me. There's no answer. So I'm going to eat the chicken salad with the dressing on the side and not eat X, Y, or Z and have a chip with dinner or whatever it is because you think you're different. We're all able to be optimized. So I don't care how old you are. If you've had a lifetime of being overweight, there still is answers. And I want to get into two more things because I know we're going to run out of time because I know you and me. Number one is the Ozempics of the world. And this is different from the microdosing, but the actual using it the way the doctor's prescribing it, which is caloric restriction and the downstream effects of that and how that can affect your thyroid in a negative way. And then also menopause and the thyropause that you talk about, because that is a shift in your hormones and that can affect your thyroid as well. So
yes,
take your pick on which one you want to start with.
Woo. Okay. GLPs. We'll go in order. So the GLPs, glucagon-like peptides, you've heard of them. Everybody's heard of them. Ozempic, Trulicity, Mounjaro, and then the peptide names are semaglutide, tirzepatide. And short of never turning on your TV, you can literally turn on any program, any news station, open any magazine of any kind, and you will see someone who is taking too high of a dose or basically the standard dose of GLPs. Stars are doing it, all of Hollywood's doing it, actors, actresses, musicians, everyone. And what you'll notice is that they're starting to get really, really skinny and they look like they've lost muscle tone. Basically, they have that like pancake ass where they've lost their butt and they start to look skeletal. So they're getting really, really drawn because they're losing their facial fat. So this is literally called Ozempic face. And what's happening with these higher doses of GLPs, they're slowing gastric motility. They are restricting caloric intake. And believe me, I've tried them. I'm not speaking from a pedestal of where I've just looked at data and I'm sitting here saying, high dose GLPs are bad. I am all for microdosing GLPs. I think that I have 3 podcasts on it. One solo, one with Gus Vickery, one with Tina Moore. I mean, we dove deep. There's a lot of great benefits to microdosing GLPs. The problem is when people are using them at the standard doses. and they are literally losing lean muscle tissue and decreasing their own metabolism, to where as soon as they go off of it, they gain all the weight back, and it's always fat because now they've lost a lot of lean muscle tissue. They just did not do the GLPs the right way. Yes, we have an obesity epidemic. And this is why you and I speak about the thyroid so often, because you really have to start there. Before we start throwing drugs at people like the GLPs, can we start with the master of our metabolism first? Can we start with the controller of our insulin regulation and our leptin? Let's start there first, because I guarantee you, if you start with a GLP and your thyroid's in the toilet, you're going to be one of those that waste hundreds of dollars a month, and 4 months, 5 months from now, you're going to go, well, that didn't work for me.
Yeah.
It's because your thyroid's in the toilet. So we cannot start with an expensive medication that's going to destroy our muscle and basically make us look 10 years older than we actually are, when we could start with the thyroid. So I think GLPs have their place. I really, really do. I think they are a miracle for true obese type 2 diabetics, because the bottom line is losing a little bit of muscle when you're carrying an extra 75 to 100 pounds. I'll give you that muscle loss in order to get that fat off of you, because the morbidity that's associated with obesity is far worse than losing a little bit of muscle. But if you're a woman who wants to lose a little bit of weight at 15, 20 pounds, you do not use a high dose GLP and lose your muscle along with it. That is unacceptable. That's the lazy way of going about it. No, and absolutely not. No, you have to start with the thyroid, with your hormones, maybe a microdose of a GLP if warranted, after you get your thyroid and hormones on track.
And to add to that, it's actually just like being on a caloric restrictive diet. It's going to slow down your thyroid even more, so that when you get off of it, then you're fatter, you're skinny fat, but now you're going to gain the weight back much faster, and you're going to gain only fat back, because it is very difficult to gain muscle, and you didn't learn to change the lifestyle that got you there in the first place during this weight loss. And so that's where you got to focus on the protein, amino acids, strength training, stress, mindset, all of the things, but thyroid first. And people overeat because that energy from the food is not translating to energy in the body. So they just keep eating.
Yeah.
We need to fix this chasm. And that chasm is your thyroid and your liver and your body working as a fine-tuned machine. Then you get to eat more. How fun is that?
Right.
And you get to feel good. So that was number one. And then with the hormones and with menopause, like I said, you could have a normal thyroid all of your life, and all of a sudden, oh my God, just gained 10 pounds in a week. Didn't change a thing. What's going on?
Yep. So thyropause, ladies, any woman listening to this who is 40 years of age or older, we need to dive into your thyroid. If you are dealing with weight gain, inability to lose weight, fatigue, hair loss, constipation, anything low mood, low brain function, low libido, low immune system, anything low and slow. If you feel like something is slowed down in your body, it is absolutely time to check your thyroid, because the definition of thyropause is when your thyroid gland craps the bed after the age of 40 due to fluctuating hormones. So let me unpack that. So when we look at hypothyroidism, low and slow thyroid function, 95% of that is Hashimoto's, or it's the autoimmune form where your body attacks the thyroid. What triggers autoimmunity? I don't care if we're talking about celiac, if we're talking about Hashimoto's, we're talking Crohn's disease, rheumatoid arthritis. What triggers it? Well, number one, you have to have a genetic predisposition. So somewhere in your family, somebody has an autoimmune condition. It doesn't have to be the same one. Next, we have leaky gut, which every single person walking the face of this earth, unless you're living in a bubble in the rainforest, you have leaky gut. And then that third leg of the stool, of the autoimmune three-legged stool, is a trigger. And one of the biggest triggers, especially for women, because we get hit with hypothyroidism, we get hit with Hashimoto's way more than men. One of the biggest triggers is fluctuating hormones. So pregnancy, big time. that we see that Hashimoto switch turn on. You'll hear women say it was after my first kid that my body went haywire, and it wasn't the pregnancy itself. Yeah, I gained some weight, sure. But it was afterwards that I gained an additional 20 pounds, and I'm depressed and I can't sleep and nothing's working and nothing's functioning. Right. Because you turned on that, or your body turned on that Hashimoto switch, because a pregnancy is a huge stressor. It's a huge hormonal roller coaster stressor. So is perimenopause. So is menopause. So I will argue, and I will die on this hill, that if I tested 1,000 women above the age of 40, 995 of them are going to have a thyroid problem. I guarantee it. So if you are over the age of 40, it is time. If you want to live your best life, it is time to be looking at and fixing your thyroid.
And I can tell you at the age of 49, I have more energy that's stable throughout the day than I did in my high school and college years.
Yeah.
So you can live your best half of life, the second half. And it's something that you need to address, though. And the problem also is all of those hormones are causing stress to increase. They're causing sleep disruptions, which is going to downregulate your thyroid even more. So all of these other factors are going to put more pressure on that thyroid in the downward direction. And then you feel, once again, helpless, all the symptoms, the unexplained weight gain. And I even have friends that have amazing figures and have lived a life of six packs and all that stuff. And they've even just said, you know what, I'm just succumbing to the fact that my six pack's gone. And I'm like, no, you don't have to. Like,
Right.
you can get that back. You can optimize. You just have to make some tweaks and do all of the right things, and you can live your best life.
Absolutely.
Amie, I can't believe it. We're out of time. We obviously need to continue this conversation. So we are going to do a masterclass. So why don't you tell everybody about it?
Yeah, we talked about this off air because we get together so often and we educate about the thyroid. And it's like, you know what? Why don't we just do an intimate deep dive for your people, for your listeners? Because I think that benefits so much more, and we'll open it up to a Q&A. So it's going to be a ton of fun. So we are going to do a Fix Your Thyroid. So you're really going to learn a lot more. We're going to go deeper. A Fix Your Thyroid Masterclass on March 27th at 6 p.m. Eastern. So do that math, 3 p.m. Pacific. And yeah, I mean, we're just going to go. I'm going to deep dive and teach. We'll open it up to a Q&A. So we will give you we'll give you a link for people to sign up, so you can put that in the show notes. But I think this is going to be a ton of fun.
I'm super excited because it's going to be intimate. The questions, you can throw them at us and we'll be there right on the spot to answer them. So I'm super excited. Well, thank you, Amie. And where can people find you and work with you if they want to do so beforehand?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to dramie.com, DRAMIE.com, really easy. And on there, you can browse the blogs and obviously dive into the Thyroid Fixxr podcast that Sara's been a guest on many times. We have a ton of free information. We have the Just Fix Your Thyroid Facebook group. That is free as well. You can post your labs. You can ask questions. You can do all the things in there. But if you're ready, if you're like, all right, enough, I've bounced around different doctors, I need help, we do prescribe to all 50 states and most of Canada. So on that dramie.com page, you can book a call and we'll go over all the different options with you.
There's no one I trust more than Dr. Amie Hornaman when it comes to thyroid. So she is the one. If you have exhausted all of the others and you are just exhausted, definitely reach out to Amie and join the masterclass. It's going to be so much fun, and we're going to dive deep into things that haven't been talked about. So thank you, Amie, again. I can't wait for that date, and we will continue the conversation.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Sara.
Oh my goodness, we could continue talking for hours and hours and hours. Amie is amazing, and that's why I encourage you to join the masterclass. It's going to be so much fun, and we can get intimate. Before I go, I want to just give you some quick supplements that can get you optimized before you even get into the medication. And number one, and Amie mentioned it, is the Acceleradine iodine. As the thyroid expert, it is the only iodine that she trusts. And iodine is essential for that T2, T4, T3, 2, 3, and 4 molecules of iodine connected to that tyrosine that comes from animal protein, preferably. So that iodine is going to increase that ATP in the mitochondria to its maximum level. That's your energy. That's what gets you out of bed. That's what lowers your stress, because your body knows I have enough energy. It gets to your brain, so you have circulation and blood flow into your brain, and you go, oh my gosh, the lights are back on. The brain fog is lifted. The mood has improved. The depression has lifted. Did you know the number one cause of depression is iodine deficiency? And iodine is needed for that cell membrane, the brain of the cell, to allow the toxins out and the nutrients into every cell. Remember those toxins that fill up your fat cells? Well, we need to get those out. And the cell membrane has an iodolipid value, iodine fat value, to allow those toxins out, nutrients in, and iodine's needed outside the blood to clean the blood, to clean the liver, and to help your hormonal balance as well. It helps with that estrogen dominance, the bad estrogens that make you put on that excess weight, all of those things. And then, of course, it fills those receptor sites throughout your body, in your thyroid, provides the iodine for those T4 and T3 thyroid hormones. Number two is accelerated thyroid. Not only is it thyroid glandular, but it is the peptides and the nutrients and Ayurvedic herbals like Kanchanara to help with thyroid nodules, water retention, draining that excess water out of your body that people like me suffer from. And it helps support the thyroid to get you to where it needs to be. It helps with thyroid conversion as well, metabolism, fat burning, adrenal function, your immune system. Now, the third one is Amie's Thyroid Fixxr. It's that extra layer of fat burning. And those three together are in my accelerated thyroid bundle at Accelerated Health Products, and they are magic. Now, we also talked about the liver. Accelerated Liver Care is the best liver supplement I've ever experienced. It brought my liver enzymes, when they were through the roof over 700, down into normal range within 2.5 weeks. It was unbelievable, even for me, but it helps flush out the excess estrogens and toxins, increases the bile flow for your improved fat digestion and detoxification. It supports the T4 to T3 conversion, helps with liver fat. Most of us have fatty liver disease, reduces liver inflammation, bloating, water retention. You can take just 3 caps at night, or you can do a therapeutic dose and add in an additional dose sometime in the morning of that 3 caps to help push your body and cleanse that liver. You can also use it with the accelerated liver flush cleanse to really cleanse that liver, reset the liver's health, and get those stones out of your body. So those would be the most important supplements. Of course, copper is needed as well. Copper is actually a key to fat burning. So as you are trying to lose that thyroid related weight gain, copper is that hidden key. It's also going to improve your energy, your cellular energy. So you want to get off the couch. So you want to go to the gym. So you want to choose the right healthy foods to eat and all of the things. So hopefully everyone is wanting to just dive into the masterclass with me and Amie. Please join. The details are going to be below, and it's going to be so much fun. You can ask your questions and get really glandular and down into the deep weeds of your thyroid mystery. So thanks for listening. Our discussion does not have to stop here. If you're feeling lost in the supplement world, no worries. Start by getting your free supplement protocol. Head to sarabantahealth.com, complete the form, and I will personally put together a protocol for you. You can follow me on social media at Accelerated Health Products and join the free group coaching. You might have questions way before the masterclass. Let's get them answered. The link is also at sarabantahealth.com. You can find this podcast and all of my podcasts by searching Accelerated Health with Sara Banta on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, E360, iHeartRadio, Roku, Amazon, and over 100 different platforms. Share this podcast. Your girlfriends definitely have thyroid issues, and they probably have been told they're normal. They need to hear this. And you can also use coupon podcast10 to get 10% off site-wide. Thanks for joining us here, and join us next time for more ways to unlock your health potential.